Hello everyone. Let's continue with the second part of our lecture on MFRS 141. This is on the scope of MFRS 141, and as I said earlier, it applies to only agricultural activities, right? And when we talk about agricultural activities, this one it apply to the biological asset, except for barren plants. As a start, biological asset, let me just tell you, this is we're talking about living animal here and living plants, which are under the management of the activities for agricultural purpose. Agricultural produce. Let's say this is a tree, and let's say these are the durians. Yeah, so the durian is the agricultural produce, right? And agricultural produce at the point of harvest, let's say the durian now has come to the point where it can be harvested. So the durian is the agricultural produce, and it normally takes 4 to 5 years for durian to bear the fruits. Yeah, so you need to wait 5 years or 4 years before you can get the durian to bear the fruit. So at the point of harvest, government grant, which relate to the biological asset. However, it does not apply to produce growing on bearer plants and produce growing on bearer plants, which is before it bear the first fruit. Land related to agricultural activity. So if this is a biological asset, the trees, for example, are biological asset. If you talk about, let's say, a strawberry bush, let's say this is strawberry, yeah, and these are the bush. I'm not good at drawing. It looks so horrible, I know. All right. That land that we use here, this land is not under MFRS 141. That was under MFRS 116 or maybe under MFRS 140, depending on the use of the land. And also does not apply to bearer plants. So if this is a durian tree just now, and durian tree has been used in the production of fruits, right? And that has been there for more than 1 year. So meaning that it will keep on reproducing and producing and bear durian every year, every season, right? So durian, the tree itself is not an agricultural, it's not a biological asset, not under MFRS 141. But the durian, the agricultural produce, is under MFRS 141 because the standards say MFRS 141 still apply to the produce on those bearer plants, even though the plant, yeah, does not relate to MFRS 141, but the fruits on that bearer plant is still under MFRS 141. So the plant should be treated as per PPE for the bearer plant. So the government grant related to bearer plant is not under MFRS 141. This is under MFRS 120. And intangible asset related to agricultural activity also not under MFRS 141. That relates to MFRS 138. Okay, let us look at what are bearer plants. So as I said, bearer plants are not under MFRS 141. So bearer plants are those plants that are being used in the production or supply of agricultural produce. So it resembles the use of a PPE, if you can say, for PPE, like tangible items, they are used in production, right? So same goes here. Bearer plants are used in the production. We do not grow the plant for the plant. We grow the plant, and the plant later will be able to produce not only once, but several times for several years, those fruit Yeah, so the fruit trees are the bearer plant, but the fruit on that tree is under MFRS 141 agricultural produce. The oil palm tree are the bearer plants, but the fresh fruit bunches coming from the oil palm tree is under MFRS 141, right? The tea leaves are under MFRS 141 because they are the agricultural produce, but the tea bushes, sorry, is under MFRS 116 because this is under MFRS 116. It is to be treated as property, plant, and equipment. Rubber tree, the latex being tapped from the rubber tree is under MFRS 141, but the rubber trees itself, it is actually under bearer plant. So rubber trees shouldn't be put as your biological asset because rubber trees will keep on producing latex for several years ahead. Same goes for sugar cane. Yeah, so the same thing. So it is expected to bear produce for more than one period. You will not just produce once and that's it. You need to grow and wait for the trees to produce for the second for you again. But this one, it will be able to produce uh, for the years to come, as long as the useful life of the plant is still there for more than 1 month. For more than 12 months, right? The useful life, right? So it will be able to produce for more than just 1 year. So basically that. So more than one period. That was the keyword, right? Used in the production or supply of goods. And it has a remote likelihood of being sold as agricultural produce. So meaning that if you grow the tree, the rubber tree, you're not trying to sell the rubber tree, right? You're trying to sell the latex. So if later you go and sell the rubber tree, it might be an incidental scrap sale. But there was also an issue for the rubber tree because there are lots of furniture coming from this so-called perabot getah, right? So that one is not really the point of growing the rubber tree. The whole point of growing the rubber tree is normally to get the latex coming from that rubber tree. So all of the above criteria 1, 2, 3 must be met for a biological asset, which is for the trees. It's not considered under MFRS 141, but it is going to be considered under MFRS 116. So you will have to follow all the accounting requirement under MFRS 116. And the bearer plant may be also cut down or sold as a scrap, and they can also use as a firewood. Yeah, but that's incidental scrap sale will not say that it is going to be a biological asset. It is still within the definition of bearer plant. So bearer plant here is the plant that will keep on producing for agricultural produce for more than one period, and it is used in the production or supply of agricultural produce, and it takes more than 1 year, yeah, that they can come with their agricultural produce. So it should be considered under MFRS 116. These are not bearer plants, right? Plants cultivated to be harvested as an agricultural produce. If you have plants being cultivated to be harvested as an agricultural produce, these are not bearer plants, where you have the trees, and the trees you grow not to get the fruits, right? But you want to get the produce, which is cut down the tree and that becomes timber or lumber. So those are not bearer plants. Those are still under MFRS 141. Plants cultivated to produce agricultural produce, but there is more than a remote chance that the entity will also harvest and sell the plant, like the case of rubber tree just now, right? So rubber tree may not be cultivated for just the latex, but it can also be cultivated for both the latex, but here is not the fruit and latex, and their lumber as well, their lumber. So basically, these are not bearer plants. If you just cultivate the rubber trees and your intention is just to get the latex without having any intention to sell the lumber, that one will be under bearer plants. But in normal circumstances, these are not bearer plants, right? These are going to be producing for more than a remote likelihood, and therefore the entity will harvest and sell the plant as agricultural produce other than incidental scraps. So if you see there is a value to the lumber, which is the rubber tree here, right? So this will not meet the definition of bearer plant unless, as I said earlier, you do not have intention to grow the plant and harvest and sell the plant like other agricultural produce. So therefore, in this case, normally this can be sold off. The lumber itself can be sold off, but it's not the intention of what you did in day one. That may come after 20 years, after let's say 15 years of time that the rubber tree has given the so-called latex coming out of the tree. Next is the annual crops. Annual crops, the one like paddy, maize, and wheat. These one are not bearer plants according to MFRS 141. These are under MFRS, still under MFRS 141. It is not a bearer plant, so it is just a biological asset. So it will be under MFRS 141, not under MFRS 116. So produce on a bearer plant is, again, to be reminded, a biological asset. We talk about biological transformation. So when we talk about transformation, that relates to process. So the process here is where it will produce outcome, right? Yeah. So that process will be the process that relates to growth, degeneration, and procreation. So the transformation here relates to growth, degeneration, and procreation, and also production. But the first three here is through the asset changes. And the number 4 here is through the generation of new asset. This is because asset change throughout the day one until the day it mature, but here is because it generate new assets. So let's say growth. Growth here has something to do with increase. Increase in what? Increase in quality, increase in quantity of what? Of maybe living animal or living plant. Either increase in quantity, increase in the number in terms of size, increase in size, increase in weight, increase in the size, increase in weight, how many the weight of the animal or the weight of the size of the plant. Increase in quality, increase in the quality of the durian produce, for example. Increase in the quality of the protein contained in the milk. The ripeness of the fruit, for example, has become better. And that is growth. Any increase, either in quantity or quality. Whereas degeneration is the reverse, which is the decrease, or if there are reduction or deterioration in quality or in quantity. Yeah, that is normally related to disease. So normally if animals are attacked by disease, the quality will reduce, the quantity will also be decreased from time to time. So that is called degeneration. Procreation is the case where you create a new additional living animal. Let's say the cow give birth to a calf, right? Or maybe the sheep here give birth to a lamb. So those are procreation, right? And production here is where the cow, for example, or the dairy cow, or the dairy cow produce agricultural produce, which is, let's say, the milk. When cows are being milk are actually the agricultural produce. So that is also biological transformation by way of production. Procreation means creation of new animal or new plants. Degeneration means decrease in quantity, decrease in quality. Growth means increase in quantity, increase in quality. So production here is production of agricultural produce. So these are an example of biological transformation. Eggs to become duckling. Duckling then becomes a duck. The seedling becomes the plant. Plant becomes plant with flowers, is a strawberry plant, and strawberry plant now comes with the fruits. The fruits are agricultural produce, but the trees, the plant here is the biological asset, right? When once you harvest the strawberry fruits from the tree, that is going to be what you call harvested product. So these are biological asset and agricultural produce. And as I said, biological asset, the definition is a living animal. So the animal that you have here, these two animals are example of biological asset. And the tea leaves on the tea bush, you can see the tea bush here, right? So the tea leaves on the tea bush are biological asset because it is still on the land, growing on the land. However, if you have the green leaves plucked from the tea leaves, from the tea bush here, that one is an agricultural produce. Or the agricultural produce here is the eggs, from the eggs coming from the hen. But when the eggs later also is now producing chicks, so those are agricultural produce. Additional, this is agricultural produce, but this one is additional biological asset. Next one. Harvest. What is harvest? Harvest is when you detachment of agricultural produce from a biological asset. Or not only detachment of agricultural produce, you may also have agricultural produce that comes from the bearer plant. So detachment of produce, right? For example, when cattle is being milked, right? Or maybe the mangoes are plucked, or the cessation of the biological asset through slaughtering. So when you also cessation of biological asset. So when you have your cow being slaughtered, or when you have to kill your or you need to go and scrap off the animal or dispose the animal. You need to, kill them because of disease, right? So those are also cessation of biological asset, the end of the life. These are more examples that you can go through. You can go through this slide yourself. Yeah, this one. This slide number 21. Next is the distinction between biological assets. These are extracted from FAR320, where sheep, for example, the produce is wool, but the product that can be used after the manufacturing or when it gets into the factory, it becomes carpet, becomes yarn. Milk is an agricultural produce, but cheese or whatever, canned milk, or maybe the milk which are being processed into flavored milk, those are all what you call product that is as a result of process of harvesting. Yeah, you have many more here. Go and check it out. Latex, that what I give earlier, it can later be rubber. Products like tire, those are an example. And bear in mind the produce growing on bearer plants are also under Mfrs 141. In terms of recognition, how do you recognize a biological asset? Or when do you recognize? When you have a control. Let's say you have a cow that you purchase. This is the cow, and this is the horn. The cow that you purchase is under your control because you have the ownership, right? But later, if let's say this cow give birth to a baby cow, the calf here is also under your control, right? So those are also biological asset, and you have a control because you have the ownership of it under your control. You decide. Probable future economic benefits. So the cow later, if you milk them, so the milk is an agricultural produce, it can produce future economic benefits. Let's say the milk coming from this cow. Or maybe the cow itself, the calf, the newly born calf can also be sold off. That will also generate future economic benefit, the sale of the calf. And that has to be measured at fair value. What are the market price of a newly born calf, right? So you need to know what are the market price, and you need to be able to measure reliably. Although when you give birth, there are no price, but when you sell, there will be a price. When you value that, there is a market price of the calf, right? Even though the day you born, the newly born cow, the fair value is 0 on the day it was born, but actually there is a value if you look at the market value. So all three must be satisfied. So you can check this yourself, what can be the further explanation of what I mentioned. And normally it is measured in terms of the 3 criteria. So fair value must be the main priority. So you will use cost if fair value cannot be measured reliably. So then only use cost. If you have the fair value, don't use cost. Next, you look at the example 1 of Marini Berhad. Marini is involved in breeding of fish and also planting of durian. for sale, and that was the the agricultural activity. Remember we talked about biological transformation for sale, yeah, and they are using 10 ponds to breed the fish. So pond is actually not a biological asset, it is a PPE. The company also owned the following item that was also helped to manage the breeding of the fish: the tractor, which is also a PPE, and the patent, which is an IA. Patent being acquired, you need to get the permission, and you get them by acquiring the patent for pond management. You asked to explain the classification, so our focus are more on this. Fish are under Mfrs 141, so this is a biological asset. So Mfrs 141. Pond is actually a PPE, right? So under Mfrs 116, tractor, Mfrs 116, patent is an IA, Mfrs 138. So let's look at the answer. Fish is a biological asset. Why? Because it is a living animal. It was used in the breeding of fish for sale. So that was the agricultural activity. Pond is not a biological asset, of course. It is a PPE because there is a tangible item. And that pond was used in the production of goods and services, production of help to produce in terms of the place to rear the to breed the fish, right? Breeding of fish. So that is under PPE. Tractor was also used in the production of the fish, which is for pond management. To manage the pond, you need the tractor. So this is again a PPE. Acquired patent is an intangible asset because you need that identifiable asset, yeah, where that one will be used as a systematic way in your pond management, and you get that patent from maybe the third party. This is the last one because this is in green. Yeah? Durian trees are green in terms of the fruit. So durian trees are living plants. It can be recognized as PPE. Only living plants that has the characteristic of having to produce or to bear agricultural produce for more than 1 year can be classified as bearer plant. You don't have any bearer animal. Please remember that. We just talk about bearer plant. The standard says it's about plants, nothing to do with animal. So living plants can be recognized as PPE under Mfrs 116. Why? Number one, criteria number one, it was used in the supply of goods or production of goods. Second one, it was expected to bear durian fruits for more than 1 year. And the third one, the likelihood, yeah, to be sold as a scrap sale is very least likely. We move on to measurement. So it will be measured initial measurement, and also on subsequent measurement after initial recognition. Both will be measured at fair value less cost to sell. At fair value less cost to sell. So in general, it must be measured at fair value less cost to sell unless the fair value cannot be measured. Yeah, where the fair value cannot be measured, and if there is no active market, market in that particular let's say industry, so therefore it can be measured at cost. Cost means cost less accumulated depreciation less any accumulated impairment loss, but it must be measured using fair value if the fair value can be measured reliably, either on initial recognition on the date of purchase, or maybe on the day the calf is born for animal, right? Or on the date of initial recognition. Subsequent means every reporting date. So it is normally based on its present location and condition. And MFRS 141 assume that fair value is available in the active market and can be measured reliably in general.